Eggs, they are the world's natural multivitamin. They're great for muscle building. They're great for fat loss. They're great for recovery. They're one of the best foods you could possibly eat for performance, strength, and health. But which eggs are the best? Conventional, pasture, free range? Do you pick one? Does it matter? That's what we're going to talk about.
If you can afford them right now.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Are they getting crazy right now?
Dude.
It's like $1 a day?
Yeah, dude.
Diamond eggs.
People are doing like black market sales right now.
It's crazy. All right, so eggs in general, first off, finally, this is what an example of don't listen to the government for health.
Yeah.
Wow.
They finally came out and said eggs are healthy.
Yeah, 30 years later.
After demonizing them.
They've literally ping-ponged it back and forth and back and forth.
First, they demonized eggs. When we were younger, in the 90s, 80s, and 90s, you were told to not eat eggs, or if you did, throw the yolk away, please, because it's so terrible.
God
so full
forbid
of
the cholesterol.
I'm skeptical now.
Yeah.
They're doing something to them now.
Yeah,
so.
maybe why do they think eggs are good?
I know.
And then they were kind of quiet about it for a while. By the way, meanwhile, all the fitness people, especially bodybuilders, were like, you guys are crazy. Eggs are good for you.
Yeah.
Said we're bad. Then they came out and said, they're probably okay. And now they're like, yes, they're actually healthy. And it is interesting that they encourage people to throw the yolk away, which is actually the most nutrient-dense part of the egg. The egg white essentially is just protein.
Yeah.
The yolk is what contains the choline. It's what contains most of the vitamins, like the vitamin A, the omega-3 fatty acids.
It's also most of the cholesterol, too.
And the cholesterol, which dietary cholesterol has some interesting muscle building.
That's the main reason, right? I mean, that's the main reason why they would say to throw it away.
They said to throw it away because dietary cholesterol.
Yeah.
Yeah, they thought, oh, this is what makes your cholesterol grow up, which is not true. That's not what makes your cholesterol grow up. It doesn't cause problems. There are very rare instances.
Now, even the bodybuilders fell for that one for a while. Or at least
they did, but at least in the off season they would eat full eggs.
Yeah.
Because they would say, oh, I noticed an effect.
Yeah.
It's funny because they did studies. We have really good studies now that compare egg whites to whole eggs, and they control calories and protein and everything. And the muscle protein synthesis signal, which is essentially the muscle building signal that happens from whole eggs, is quote unquote mysteriously higher with whole eggs, even if we control for macros and all that stuff. I think it's the cholesterol. There's also great cognitive benefits from eating eggs. You look at the studies on children. Mothers, when they're pregnant, who eat whole eggs, and children who eat eggs have improved cognitive performance and higher IQs.
It affects your IQ, yeah.
And that's
crazy.
Probably due to the choline that's in eggs, which is arguably essential. Most people would say it's not an essential nutrient, but I think it's essential because when you look at the data on consumed choline, you just see this boost in cognitive performance and health. And eggs are they have everything in them. I mean, you could only eat eggs and get away with that for a little while. Not encouraging that. Don't think that's a good idea. But they are nature's multivitamin, and they are great for fitness. Great for fitness.
I think it's such a, I don't know if maybe I've just trained myself to be okay with eating this sort of, but leftover dinner with a couple of scrambled eggs is like such a great breakfast.
Yes.
And eggs scramble so fast. So whatever, chicken, steak, fish dinner, whatever you had the night before, like a smaller portion size of that, thrown in an iron skillet and crack three eggs on it real quick. You're done in less than 2 minutes. You've got, faster than you could probably microwave something. You've got a full-blown breakfast now that's high in protein starting your day out. And I just think that was one of the biggest challenges I personally had, and I saw my clients had with staying ahead of their protein count. Like if you got behind in the morning time, it was really difficult to hit your protein targets. Yeah. And so finding strategies for clients to have high protein breakfast was always key. But then a lot of those, high protein breakfasts take a long time to make. Yeah. Right. Because you're cooking up.
Or people just think, 2 eggs, which is great, but it's only 12 grams of protein.
Right.
Which is low for most people who are trying to hit protein targets.
Right.
Luckily for me, when I started working out, I became a student of just the history of muscle building, bodybuilding. And I read up Vince Gironda, who was so ahead of his time in the 50s and 60s. And he advocated for 12 eggs a day for some of these guys, right? And he talked about how anabolic it was. So I identified this early on. And so if anybody wants to try this, if you're otherwise healthy, try eating 8 or 10 whole eggs a day, even control the calories, reduce calories somewhere else. It's anabolic. You'll get this muscle building effect that lasts about 5, 6, 7 weeks. That's quite pronounced. And I think it's the dietary cholesterol. But nonetheless, when you go to buy eggs, is there a difference? Is there a difference between conventional, free range, and pasture, which are the three main categories? So I have some of the regulations around those and what they mean. So I'll go through them first so we know what they are, right? So conventional eggs are essentially chickens that are in crates all the time.
Anything goes, right?
And they're fed grain or a vegetarian diet. Now keep in mind, chickens are not vegan.
No.
That's not a natural diet. Chickens in nature eat lots of grubs and bugs and stuff like that. But they're fed just grain. By the way, the crates, do you guys want to know how big a crate is per chicken?
They're vicious, dude.
It's
tiny.
8.5 by 11 inches. It's a sheet of paper. So they're just in these little tiny crates, can't move. And then they just become egg making factories essentially. Free range means that the chickens have access to outdoors. Doesn't mean they go outside, but they have access to go outside. And then pasture means that they're on 108 square feet of outdoor space per chicken, plus barn space. And they tend to eat a lot of bugs and worms because they can forage and eat.
Yeah.
And they'll supplement their diet, but a lot of their diet comes from, bugs and worms and stuff like that. Nutrient-wise, there is a difference. So for anybody wondering, by the way, if you've ever had pasture eggs and you've eaten conventional eggs, they look different. When you crack the egg and you open it and put it on your pan, pasture-raised eggs tend to have this like orangey colored yolk, whereas your conventional eggs tend to be really pale yellow, which I thought was, growing up, that was how eggs were supposed to look.
Yeah. Yellow.
The first time I had a pasture-raised egg, I was like, uh-oh, what's something wrong with this egg?
It's like neon color. This is crazy. Yeah.
By the way, side note, fertilized eggs seem to have anabolic growth factors within them, and there's some supplement companies that have made supplements based off of fertilized eggs. So just little side note, I don't have a lot of data to supports that. There are a few studies, but if you're like one of those people who likes to nerd out on muscle building effects of things or whatever, look up fertilized eggs and the anabolic compounds that you'll find in them.
There's cultures that eat that, right?
So fertilized egg is still an egg. It's just an egg. You're talking about.
Oh, I'm talking about like grown, developed halfway. I remember, that was like a bit of a dare.
Did you?
Yeah. Well, it was.
You eat the bones and everything?
It was not pleasant, dude.
Yeah.
It was more of a haze than anything. Yeah. But I just remember that was like a part of like this Asian market, and they bought it.
It's a specialty.
It was delicacy.
What's the name of it, Doug? Do you know what that's called?
I don't know. I know the Vietnamese, so they eat these duck eggs.
That's it.
And they have like a little duck embryo in there.
Yeah, no. Fertilized eggs, they look like normal. They're just normal eggs. They're just fertilized. What was that supplement years ago that guy tried to get us to work with? And it came from fertilized
Manofor.
eggs. Yes. Yes.
Oh my God.
And then
takes it back.
So there are anabolic compounds in fertilized eggs that seem to have these muscle building effects as well. So it's just another level if you kind of want to go that far with it. But nonetheless,
also to Doug made a point when we were talking about this the other day that I was unaware of, that some of these companies are also using stuff to dye the color of the eggs.
Yeah.
So it's not even that you can't even just go off the way it's colored anymore, because
they'll feed them things specifically to make the color of the yolk, and not necessarily how it's supposed to occur.
Right.
So the reason why they're more orange is they're higher in typically vitamin A, they're higher in vitamin E, I'm talking about pasture-raised eggs, and they're higher in omega-3s. They also tend to have higher vitamin D levels because the chickens are exposed to the sun.
Wow.
So,
I mean, vitamin D and omega alone, that should be motivating for most people.
Now, some people are like, oh, one egg versus another, it's not that big of a difference. Well, yeah, if you only eat one egg.
Yeah.
But if you eat eggs weekly or especially daily, if you're somebody like me who can eat on average between 5 to 10 eggs a day, and I do this day in and day out, now it makes a big difference to go with the pasture eggs.
I mean, I feel like this is the same conversation where we talk about grass-fed meat.
Yes.
It's like if you rarely ever eat grass-fed meat, though if you choose, rarely ever eat steak or meat, the difference between one steak, grass-fed versus one, it's like, okay, not a big difference. But if you eat steak on a regular basis and over time, like that's a massive difference.
Yes, 100%. So I always opt for pasture raised because I eat so many eggs. And if you give them to your kids, I would say it's probably a good idea to go pasture. If you don't eat a lot of eggs, maybe it doesn't make that big of a difference. And
most likely, anytime you buy breakfast from a restaurant, I'm assuming
they're not going pasture.
They're going conventional. It's cheaper.
No, if they go pasture, it'll say it on the menu. They'll literally list it that way. But yeah, it's higher. So you're eating nature's multivitamin, you know, I think it's a good idea to go with the best source. But that's not to say that conventional eggs aren't healthy. Conventional eggs are still healthy. So even the worst ones are good for you. And then, of course, there's another side to this, which is a lot of people do care about the well-being of the animals that we farm with. And, you know, chickens stuck in a crate that barely fits them, that doesn't sit well with me. You know,
Yeah.
to think of it like just sitting there.
They get sick, and then what? You got to give them
Antibiotics.
antibiotics, and yeah, it's just depressing to see.
Well, isn't there? Don't they say like all animals that they release stuff when they are like stressed?
Yeah, it's a stressful environment.
Yeah, so you got to think that changes the chemistry
You know what's
and the makeup
quality,
of
yeah.
the.
By the way, you know what's the other difference with pasture raised eggs is the integrity of the yolk. So I don't know if you guys ever done this. If you crack 2 of them and you leave them there, you know how the yolk is just kind of sitting there, and then press on the conventional one versus the pasture raised one, and the pasture raised one is firmer with a stronger integrity.
Oh, wow.
I could see
versus
that.
the other one where it's just kind of, you know, blah, and it falls apart type of deal.
That.
Yeah, so it does make a bit of a difference. Hey, sorry to interrupt. Look, we have a free guide. It's the benefits of eating whole foods. This gives you a shopping list, what foods are best for proteins, fats, carbohydrates. There's recipe samples. It's all based on real, whole, natural foods, and it's a free guide. It's totally free. You can get it if you go to wholefoodsguide.com or by clicking on the link in the description below. Okay, I got an interesting study to bring up that Rhonda Patrick posted on X, which I think is really interesting.
Well, she's been quiet in the news at least.
Yeah.
Remember how popular she was after the Joe Rogan boost? And she was like the hot topic for like a year. Yeah, and then I just haven't
Huberman
heard.
kind of took that spot, I think.
Yeah, I think so. You're right. It was because before Huberman, she was the one that everybody was kind of quoting and talking about. And then I really haven't heard much.
She always has good information. It's very heavy for sure.
So this study that she's referring to is talking about the longevity connection with muscle power. Not just strength, but actual power, right? The ability to generate force quickly. In a recent study, older adults with normal and high levels of relative muscle power had better 9-year survival rates than older adults with low muscle power. It's even protective against death in older adults with high levels of body fat. Okay? Being fat and powerful reduced mortality just as much as being lean and powerful.
Yeah.
Okay. So 43 to 45%. Ready for this?
Yeah.
Here's where it gets interesting. This is why I brought this up. Being lean and weak, however, provided no survival advantage compared to being fat and weak.
Oh, wow.
Take that,
Lean
Abercrombie.
and weak is very bad for you, just like being fat and weak.
Now, okay, so is that like on all-cause mortality, or
Yes.
is that because
This is just mortality.
you obviously having a bunch of extra body fat for survival purposes is more beneficial, right? You throw a lean, weak person out and a weak, fat person out in the middle of nowhere with no food. The person with all the extra body fat is going to live longer.
He's got
based off that. But are we talking about heart conditions and everything?
It just says all-cause mortality.
Wow.
Now,
interesting.
I think you could argue, obviously, obesity past a certain point is just going to be bad, regardless. But weak and skinny isn't great at all. And here's where my mind went with that study. After I read that, I said, "Oh my God, is this what's going to happen with the misuse of GLP-1s?"
For sure.
Because what you see with GLP-1s, which by the way is not due to the GLP-1. I want to be clear here. GLP-1s don't make you weak, okay? But they do make you eat a lot less. So if you take someone who's obese, who also has low muscle mass, which is more common than someone who's obese with a lot of muscle mass. In fact, there was a long time ago, we dispelled the myth that being overweight meant you had more muscle.
Yeah.
We actually found that, and we know this now as a fact, being overweight actually increases the odds of things like sarcopenia, muscle weakness, and that kind of stuff. So you see when people go on a GLP-1 who don't bump their protein intake and don't strength training is they just eat less. Yeah. So they lose body fat, but they also lose muscle as the body tries to slow its metabolism down to match the new reduced caloric intake. So what we may be doing is just changing the problem, but it's still a problem.
It just seems like a natural tendency, you know, because it's like the path of least resistance. Like it's already been trained. Like, okay, so if I don't have to eat as much now, like then I'm just gonna, and I'm enjoying the benefits of losing weight. You know, to do work on top of that, or to like add, they don't really have the discipline to like add the food that they need to have the building blocks to maintain the muscle mass. It's just not a consideration. I could totally see the mentality shifting, you know, from that to that extreme.
Which is sad to me, because what I've found through talking to people, if this is communicated properly, is more motivation to go to the gym when someone starts a GLP-1. You take someone who's struggled with losing 50 pounds, then they start the GLP-1, they start to lose weight. If you communicate to them properly, like, look, when you do this, you need to lift weights and you need to hit protein intake, because you'll lose weight, but you'll lose muscle, and your health may not actually improve, or maybe it improves a little bit, but not that much, because you lost so much muscle. And you communicate it properly, and then they start losing weight, they might be like, you know what, I'm motivated to work out. Actually, that's what I found. But what's happening is a lot of people aren't communicated to this. They go to the doctor goes, go on a GLP-1, we just got to get you to lose the weight. And the person doesn't realize that they maybe trade one problem for another. And this is kind of showing, like, skinny and weak, no protection over being fat and weight.
Yeah, this also highlights to me, because I know we talk a lot about processed foods as being like the big culprit for the obesity epidemic, but then I think this really highlights that
inactivity.
Yeah, and also a lack of knowledge, right? Like I think where maybe the resources should be focused in is maybe educating at a younger age. I think that's what it is. It's just that it's not just this processed food that has been engineered to make you overeat. It's like, okay, even if we solve that, either there was no processed foods, or you create a drug that allows people, or has people that don't want that anymore, GLP-1s, it sounds like we're going to be in the same situation still. Just it's a similar amount of people that are going to be unhealthy, but just for different reasons.
Yeah.
We may improve.
Both sides are avoiding the work. You know, at the end of the day, like it's like, you know, if I have to like go train, if I have to like be disciplined about eating protein, that's still like a discipline, you know, to absolve that, you know, it's misleading, because it's like I'm now like helping myself because I'm losing weight, but you don't realize, you know, you still have to put the work in.
I mean, I feel like the number one, and I feel like we've been screaming this since the beginning of starting this podcast, is the most common thing that I found in all clients is the under eating of protein.
Yeah.
I think that's become a bigger problem.
Yeah.
I wonder if you didn't change anybody's workout routines, anybody's activity, and you just doubled everyone's protein intake, how much that would solve less eating because of the satiation from that, and how much more muscle they would build or retain because of that.
We already have studies on that. Yeah. There's a protective effect, especially as you get older, from a higher protein diet, which is precisely because it's muscle sparing to an extent. But strength training is, look, you don't have to do a lot of it. One day a week would stop the muscle loss. In fact, one day every 2 weeks would probably stop the muscle loss that occurs from getting older. So through good strength training though, okay? And on top of that, kind of stay relatively active. But this is a big problem. This is a problem nobody's talking about. It's all about obesity, which is a problem. Yeah. But being under muscled, not having enough strength, reducing the size, the health, and the function of a very protective, for lack of a better term, organ, musculature, your muscle, without protecting that, maintaining that, building that, you are not going to be in a good place. You'll just be frail, which is what I'm afraid of. What I'm afraid of is you're going to get a bunch of obese people to lose a bunch of weight from going to GLP-1, not strength train, not consider protein intake.
Now they're even more vulnerable,
and they're just going to be more frail.
Yeah. It's you know, it's such a great and important conversation, because even if this GLP-1 does what we think it's going to do, right? And you said what, 1 in 3 people you think are going to have taken one.
I think it'll be more.
It's not going to. We're going to have a new, arguably worse problem. And it makes sense because there's other factors that are exacerbating this too. With the introduction of AI and the outsourcing of work and activity that we're doing. Yeah. I mean, look at our own lives, just how much, I know how much more inactive I am today because of all these great things. Like, I mean, I wonder what from age, 5 or whenever the first time I went to the grocery store with my mom to, I don't know, at least into my teenage years, early 20s, I still grocery shopped every time. I'm like, how much steps and activity in a year is that I've completely like eliminated now with delivery service? And then when we have AI that's going to be able to do our dishes or our chores in our house, like that was another thing. I still do that now today, right? That's one of the ways
I trip out on that. Like everything is becoming simulated.
Yeah.
You know, like it to the next degree. Every time we make advancements, innovations, it's like now we have to simulate what we used to do for work. And what does that look like going forward, especially when like things become so easy?
It's going to become a must foundation for everybody to not just whittle away completely.
That's it.
If we outsource all of the physical activity that we do, which we're just kind of blindly going that direction, thinking that that's utopia. Like, let's get to the place where we don't have to work and do anything, not realizing some of the consequences of that. And I think you're seeing that, and this is only going to accelerate it with GLP-1s, that people are going to be in how shitty of a situation. Like, we solved the obesity thing, dude, and then we're just now in just as much of a problem.
Now you could just like blow people over.
Listen, you have very little muscle. You could be skinny. You're weak and you have little muscle. Your risk of diabetes is very high. You know, muscle is what makes you insulin sensitive. Your heart disease risk is still high. You know what actually really what gets worse? You may reduce some risks of other things, but you know what gets worse when you're skinny and frail is falling down, breaking something, injuring yourself.
Yeah.
You take somebody who's over 65, who's frail, doesn't have good mobility, and they get hurt.
Yeah.
Not even a major injury. Just like I twisted my knee or my ankle. Now I have to kind of stay elevated for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Their health declines so
rapidly.
fast. So fast.
What are the stats with breaking hip after, like 60, 70? Like,
I don't know, but it's not
It's
good.
really, I remember seeing
It's like the most common way people go, right?
Oh, it
was
they
like
say
a rapid spiral.
fall and break your hip, die of ammonia, right?
That's what my doctor clients used to tell me that all the time.
Yeah.
So, and again, this study kind of points to that. But muscle is so protective. And the good news is for people who are listening to this, it doesn't take a lot. It's so protective to strength train just 1 day a week. You're not going to look like a bodybuilder. You're not going to be ripped doing 1 day a week. But it's so protective. You won't lose muscle. You will not lose muscle if you do decent strength training once a week, or if you do one exercise a day even, something like that, right? Just a little bit of strength training will prevent the muscle loss that happens from aging. It'll prevent the deterioration process.
This is why I like the comparison or analogy of investing, because it's so much like that. It's like, of course, if you invest more and you do 2-3 days and you're consistent with that, you'll be set for life.
There's compounding.
But because there's compounding. But even just a little bit, I mean, putting something away, investing something is going to go a long ways, especially if you start early and consistently just do a little bit. And over time, maybe you do a little bit more, but even if you don't, you've at least accumulated a lot more wealth than the person who decided not to do any saving or any investing whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I think
so here's where I'm positive about this is I actually had this conversation with Mike Matthews. I think recently through text, we were texting about, there was a study he sent talking about each generation's views of GLP-1s, and the younger generation's like all for it, type of deal. And I think that this will probably get more people to strength train because I do believe this message will get out to most people. So I think this will be a net positive. I also think if we communicate this properly, if doctors communicate this properly, you can actually trigger some motivation in somebody who has no motivation to work out by getting on a GLP-1 and seeing some weight loss.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, I'm losing some weight. You know what? I think I will go to the gym.
Yeah, that's definitely the optimistic view.
I still stand by net positive. We discussed this at the very beginning of this exploding, and of course we're skeptical at first. The more doctors that we talked to, more of the positive studies that were coming out. But no way did I think any of us were blind to the negative outcomes that are going to happen. That's going to happen. It's inevitable. But I do believe it's going to be a net positive still. But is it going to, it'll just get us to that point where maybe strength training will become this cornerstone conversation in schools and doctors. And we just need to get there. Yeah. We're not there yet. We're not there to where
I think it's going to be the most mainstream form of exercise.
It has to be.
Yeah.
It's going to force us in that direction right now. How do we measure up, Sal, to other countries?
With what?
Just like where we're going with the GLP-1s and weak strength and stuff like that. Like, are we declining faster? Are other countries just as weak?
I think we have the greatest use or the greatest interest and use of GLP-1s of all the countries. We're obviously the most obese.
We're the fattest too, though.
Yeah,
we're the
most in need of it. For sure.
Well, I mean, we're also just the consumers in America. I mean, you want to be a billionaire, you sell your products in America, right?
Right.
Health wise, Europe was behind us, but now they're catching up very quickly. I know, like the UK, obesity is very bad. I know Italy for a long time. This is where my family's from. They actually did really well for a while, but now recent generations, the obesity rate has exploded.
Now, what do you think that is? You think that has more to do with food, or are things changing activity wise over there for them?
There's two things. So the old countries like Italy, a lot of the towns and cities are
built on hills, and you got to walk everywhere.
And not even hills. It's just they're so old that walking is more common.
Yeah,
it's more common. There's not a lot of suburbs like you have in this.
It makes more sense.
Yeah. The second reason is they have a culture around food that is so strong that they reject like processed foods and more so than most countries. Now they've really started to adopt them, but. Like I know this, Italians are food snobs about their food. Like you go to a coffee shop and you ask for, a latte and you ask for soy milk, you're probably going to get a dirty look. Like, no, that's not a latte, something like that. Like, they're kind of like that, right? With food. I remember McDonald's was like shunned. There was one town, I can't remember where, it was near where my dad was from, where people protested because it was McDonald's. But this was like, now I'm sure all over the place. So I think that's what protected them for a little while. But the obesity there is also, it's now taken off. So all these modern countries that adopt, this lifestyle of living sedentary and having convenient, food.
And think about I know we've, not to bring up the old argument of the whole dishwashing and the moon stuff like that, but I think it's inevitable that stuff's coming, right?
Of course.
Right. And so, how far away are we from all of your, I just sent this Instagram reel to Katrina, a bunch of these things that, these tools that exist that I didn't even know that were like automated robot cleaning stuff. Like they have this robot thing that you can just stick on a window and it sprays and wipes and cleans. You just stick it on it and it does big windows. And
wow.
stuff. Yeah.
I've seen that.
Yeah. Just random stuff like that we're creating that you automate and you don't have to do anymore.
You know what this might do? I think it's already happened for some things. It might get people to realize that there's value sometimes in doing things just for the sake of doing them. You know what I mean? Like
the reason why I don't believe that, Sal, is because simultaneously we also have this crazy increase of, binge watching YouTube and Netflix.
Well, that's what I mean.
And so we're replacing this extra time that we're creating from ourselves for more sedentary, distractive.
Well, that's what
behaviors.
I mean. It's I think people might actually, hopefully, start to be like, you know what? This is actually, I feel worse. I'm going to go garden.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to go wash my car by hand.
I think you're right that's where we'll eventually end up. The question is how long and how bad do we have to get before everybody kind of wakes up? And will this message that you're presenting be popular anytime soon?
I remember there was a movie. It's a kids movie, which we've talked about before on the show. That I remember when the first time I watched it, I got depressed. It was WALL-E.
Oh yeah.
I remember watching.
They depicted that really well.
Yeah, and you had all these like kind of obese people in these little chairs, just looking at the computer screen, not talking to each other. And I remember feeling sad, like, oh no, that's too close to real.
Yeah,
this is not good.
That hit kind of on the money on that.
It did. And then I went to that year, so this was years ago. My oldest was just a little guy. We went to Disney World, and I remember there being traffic jams from people in those scooters.
Well, you'd see at the end of the ride, at first it'd be like one or two of those rascal scooters, and then you'd see like a line of them going all the way out, and it was just stacked up.
Disney World's crazy. Disney World's crazy.
Yeah, because you got the South right there.
It's crazy.
I know.
That was my first. This year was my first time ever going there.
That's right.
And that is actually the first thing I noticed was I took a picture because I was so low. There was a time where I'm sitting and I was waiting for Katrina to get out of the bathroom. Max and I were sitting there, and like just in my peripheral, like you could see just
a sea of scooters.
Yeah, and people with like, you know, holding an ice cream and a big gulp, and I mean, literally like Wally.
Like Wally,
I mean, it was so similar to that. It was eerie. It was like, oh my God, like whoever probably created or wrote that probably got that from that. You know what I'm saying? They probably got that idea.
Probably just hung out at the park and they're like, I got an idea.
Yeah, no, totally. I think they had to get it from that.
What have we done to ourselves? Gosh, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. We try to organize our world by our whims, and it's like, how long is it going to take before we? It's so crazy because
it's numbing ourselves.
Well,
you're numbing yourself with food. You're numbing yourself with entertainment,
drugs.
And you know, I think the part that I find, like, because I also don't, I'm not the other like hardcore other way. Like, I want to be Amish and have none of this stuff. Like, because here's where I find it like crazy, right? So like this break for holiday, Max and I were doing a lot of Legos, and that company's tech interaction with their Legos is so cool. Like the iPad for him following along and learning and stuff is so cool that of course I want to use that tool. It's helping him. And so this hard part is, man, there's so many things that this great technology is doing for us as a species to move us forward in a positive direction. But then it has this other side that can rear its ugly head if you're not careful with how far you go with it. So it's learning that balance.
Almost all damaging things come from something that can be derived and looked at as like, oh, there's a good.
For sure.
There's a pleasure here, or there's a convenience here, or there's an entertainment here.
Well, I saw a little bit of that with the AGI because you see how quickly people will be able to learn skills because virtually you can, especially like piano, or like you can learn how to kind of build things in it takes you through that entire process. Like you're almost doing hands-on everything, which they've never had that ability before. So that's all going to explode. Yeah.
The thing that the conversation that these days that I have a lot of, because I have 4 kids, but my 2 oldest are big gap between them and my younger ones. And when my older ones, the struggle was like, well, they're going to be different than their friends, and their friends are doing this, and I don't want them to stand out. And then as I've gotten older, I'm realizing like that's the point. You can't be like everybody. If you're like everybody, then it's not going to be good. And the data is clear. It shows you. If you're like everybody, if you eat the way everybody does, if you move the way everybody does, if you read whatever or watch what everybody watches, you're probably going to be unhealthy physically and mentally and spiritually. Yeah. You have to literally be...
You'd be a radical weirdo.
You have to be weird.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. Look, I have a free guide that teaches you how to lose fat in 3 steps, just 3 steps that will burn the most amount of body fat and help keep it off. This guide is totally free. We're giving it to everybody right now. If you want it, click on the link at the top of the description below. All right, back to the show.
I so agree with that so strongly and passionately that the part of, I totally believe that I played a role in fostering Max's whole like into Bowser and the bad guy and stuff like that, because it was so unique and different, and I saw that so early. I remember when we first saw that, and Katrina was like, "I don't like that he likes all the bad guys." I'm like, "I love it.
Yeah, let him get used to being different."
That's right. I said, I want him to be different, and I want him to be comfortable and excited about being different. I don't want to push him like, oh, like Mario because everybody else likes Mario. It's like, yes, that's so cool that you like this and nobody else does. Yeah. Daddy loves that. And so I think it's such a good exercise if you find opportunities like that in a kid, because he doesn't know what I'm fostering really. He's into this guy for whatever reason. But the more I can push him into that direction of like, yeah, who cares that no other kid, shows up on Halloween with a Bowser? You're the only person who's that guy. Like a daddy loves that. Like,
what's important too around that? Maybe not specifically that, but with just along along those lines, it's so important as a parent that because you'll feel so isolated. Let's say your kid eats healthy and they go to a normal school, they're going to be like alone. So it's so important you find other like-minded people with kids so you have like support and you have a community. Otherwise, they're going to be like, if you have a kid, let's say you have I have a 15-year-old daughter, right? And she gets a grand total of 5 minutes on social media. Her phone is limited. That's it, 5 minutes total. Now,
what can you even do in 5 minutes, bro?
That's it.
Is that really is that real?
Swear to God.
You guys gonna give her 5 minutes?
She does, and her phone won't lock her out. She can't get more than 5 minutes. We set it up that way.
Oh my God.
Now, if we didn't have people around us with kids who had similar restrictions, she would be isolated,
she'd
and it would
feel-
be this uphill battle constant. My friends get to do this, but then he's like, oh, my other friend's not even allowed on social media, or I have another. So it's so important to surround yourself with people as a parent. Otherwise, it's like being a fitness person. Imagine if you were the only person that ate healthy and worked out, and you're always around. Like, it'd be uncomfortable. You feel isolated. But then you hang out with your friends who are into it, and it's like, okay, everybody gets it.
Yeah, I think that is so true. I also think like the education process, right? Like, I'm not there yet, so we'll see. But I have a plan for like how I'm going to tackle the phone thing. And everybody has this like, oh, I think this age or that age. And I think everyone's in agreement. The longer you can wait, the better. But who knows what happens when your friends all have it, this and that. And I want to believe that I've raised Max good to when it comes to like listening to mom and dad and being patient and things like that. And I think what I'm going to do when that day comes is I have like 3 books that I want him to read. And then after he reads them, he has to basically write me a report on why he should have a phone. And I think if he goes through that process, then he'll understand why I have the parameters on it. And if you really want that phone, he'll go through the work to do that. And if he's mature enough and actually will read those books and actually take time to do that, then maybe I should reward him with that. And then, but still with restriction, but understanding that. So that's kind of the process that I plan to do with him is that.
If it's even phones by that time.
I know, right. I'm all prepared for it. Then it's like nothing to do with that or whatever with that. But I think.
No, I get the whole
I think
strategy.
I still think the strategy plays the same, right? Maybe it's a different thing that I have to tackle, but I think, educating them on the reasons why I want to put restrictions and parameters, and not just from me educating, telling them, but them reading and learning about it. So they have a better understanding of why dad doesn't want you to be buried in this thing for tons of hours because of all these potential outcomes. Now you understand why. I'm not just being a tyrant father saying, no, you can't because I said so, or because daddy thinks it's bad. No, it's like, listen, read the studies or read what we've learned for having these tools for this long and what's happening. And do you still think you want one or need one? And then if you do, you understand why daddy just isn't going to give you unfettered access, that I want you to only have these. So I just think that approach will help. Do I think it'll be easy? I don't think so. Nothing's been easy. But I do think that that is a better strategy than just
100%.
telling you can't.
Earlier we were talking about protein. I gotta say this, man. And I know I said this about Paleo Valley's chocolate bone broth. Their salted caramel is it's ridiculous.
It's another level.
So you asked.
I almost don't believe that it doesn't have sugar.
Yeah.
It's
a dessert, dude. I use it like at night too.
I've never had a protein
helps.
powder that tasted that good ever. It's ridiculous.
You asked me, and not only do we use it all the time, I've actually got my family on it because I introduced to them adding it to coffee. That salted caramel with
beautiful.
coffee.
Oh yeah, beautiful.
It doesn't even taste like it doesn't taste like you're drinking a protein powder.
No,
at all.
it tastes like you drink sweetened.
And I've done protein powder. I've done seasons of my life where that was like a thing where I was putting protein powder, and I like coffee too much that I felt like it was ruining my coffee. This does not taste that way. It actually goes perfect.
If you gave
that's
it
a hard thing to do.
If
a lot of people have tried, and it's just like, ugh.
If you give it to someone, I'll make this statement right. You give it to someone who doesn't even know you put protein powder, they'll think you put a sweetener in there.
This is what Katrina did to my sister-in-law. Yeah. So she offered her one time. She's like, "Oh God, no, don't do that." And so Katrina's like, "Okay." Then she was at our house over the holidays, and she made coffee for everyone, and she put it in there. And she just didn't tell her, and she's like, "Oh my God, what is this? What did you do?" She's like, "I put that protein in there." She was like, "No way!" Right after that, then she sent her home with a bunch of it. So no, it's definitely a very cool hack. And I like Justin's point. I've tried to punch and I've never been consistent with it because I've never liked it, but it's actually really good.
It's also the easiest to digest. I could do 70-gram shot of protein from there. Nothing. It's like water.
Yeah, it doesn't affect your gut at all.
Not at all. Yeah. Zero.
Yeah. Dude, so I'm totally into this new, it's just a game, but I'm like, you know how pickleball took off? I'm like, this is going to be the next thing, dude. Jazzmitten.
What?
You guys never heard of it?
I'm assuming it's badminton with like jazz music?
Just jazzed up a bit. It's a terrible name, but
tackle badminton.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like dude, we even play it inside my house. So you set up it's this big square and you're supposed to hit it inside the square.
Oh, I've seen this on Instagram. You guys actually bought it?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Dude, it's so fun.
Oh, wow.
And because it has these like
What is it?
It's a tight quarters game.
feathered shuttlecocks.
And you're shooting the shuttlecocks through the square, right?
And you-
Yeah.
and you-
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
it's
do you-
just like a paddle.
Wait,
It's
what are you
almost like
hitting?
a mix between beach,
Shuttlecock.
paddle,
my
and
God.
yeah, shuttlecocks, dude.
That's what they're called.
Yeah,
Okay.
we could
That's fine.
play on words with that all day.
That's okay.
So you
and
actually,
hit it in
I
the
was,
square?
I actually looked into like getting this. So you
Dude,
got it.
It's fun. Yeah, yeah.
Did you get it for Christmas?
We
or
did
what?
it for Christmas, and then we were just like messing around. I was like, because Courtney got it, I was like, that's a really bizarre thing. And then me and the kids got real competitive with it, and it doesn't fly very far. So it's like, you're not gonna
It's a close quarters
damage.
game.
It's very close quarters, but it's like
I like this.
it's very.
Looks like it requires minimal.
It's a lot of movement.
Mineral lateral movement.
So I got, okay.
Exactly,
like it.
exactly, bro. You love it.
Your
It's a carnival game.
Your Instagram, yeah, I know. Sal would probably be really good at it. Your Instagram is probably the same as mine as far
Yeah.
as like the stuff we're getting.
They
sent.
got us.
Yeah, because I there's a lot of actually that's like a new thing. Like all these little, that's where I got the basketball idea, right? With the basketball with the buckets.
Oh, okay.
the
From
bucket
liking
basketball.
There's a bunch of these games that they've made. There's a golf one that I've seen where you like hit a wiffle golf ball
Yeah.
and it's Velcro and you hit it up on it.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of these little games that they've come up
People
with.
have been really innovative as of late with a lot of these like outdoor kind of games and stuff. There was another one that was cool that we got was called like a GIBBON board, I believe, but it's a huge, almost looks like a snowboard, but on the top it's like with a slack line. So you know how people like balance on a slack
Yeah.
line? So I mean they try and like wrap in this whole fitness like angle with
Yeah.
it. But we were just like, I was like, this is kind of weird, but it's a cool looking board. It's like this actual gibbon like monkey. But anyways, so we all tried it. It's hard because it's slackline like balance, and it just became a competitive thing with that too. And of course, Ethan's the best because he's the one still doing gymnastics and was just able to like
Yes,
be on there forever.
That sounds like an injury to me. I like the Jazzminton.
yeah, you'd like the jazz.
I'm actually considering getting one. I was
Dude,
just watching Doug
it's
play this
fun.
video of it. It looks
Yeah.
really fun.
And
It
that okay, so
It's great.
I'm assuming the score is the way you score
the
is
ground.
if it hits the ground or the person can't get it through the square.
Yep.
So you have to stay in the square the whole
You gotta
time.
stay in the square. Yeah.
No,
I think I'll play that. There's one game I see at the beach sometimes.
it's the one where you slap the smash ball.
Is that what that's called?
yeah,
That one looks
yeah.
like fun.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that one.
I've
looks
never played that. I've seen people play all the time.
Like, yeah, that
A
one
little
looks like
trampoline.
it's, but that one requires a little bit of lateral movement.
Oh
so
yeah, there's definitely more athleticism in that one than probably this.
You're gonna
Yeah.
have to do some mobility ahead of time.
So
for that.
this one is slack. You actually stand on it and you try and practice balancing on a.
Yeah, I was
a line.
surprised a big,
Nah.
big dude like me could, I didn't break it.
Well,
So,
because you got the good solid kinkles that prevent.
I
the
do.
rolling.
Yeah, I got a little stability, but I beat Everett doing it. So
Did you?
Yeah,
But not
I hope he
Ethan?
listens to this one day.
Dad
Totally
beat you.
smashed his record.
That's great.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm at the age now. Can I just tell you guys? I'm sure you guys will identify with this. I'm at the age now where I get hurt and I don't know what I did.
yeah.
I don't know what I did.
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing all this stuff.
Listen,
I'm like,
I don't
gotta
know
work
what
on my
happened.
balance again.
I don't know what happened. I woke up the other morning. Okay.
Just hurt somewhere.
My hip.
Yeah.
What? And of all places too, that's like the old person injury.
Bro.
My hip. And I'm like moving weird. I'm like, what did I didn't even work out my leg. I did nothing.
Yeah.
I slept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I woke up with an injury.
Courtney
And
would be like adding all kinds of, oh my God, I have so many hip like complaints
dude,
as of late.
For like 5 days, I was like, for the first day, I was like, it'll be gone. Day 2, I'm like, this is not going away. Day 3, I'm like, do I have what's going on here? And then I looked at Jessica, I'm like, maybe I had cancer because that's how it.
Everything's cancer.
Maybe I had a tumor. This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I
getting
actually
better.
more sense.
It's almost gone now though. So
I
I don't know what I
actually
did. I must have
noticed-
slept. I don't know what I did. I was squatting while I was sleeping. I don't know what I did.
I noticed more issues. So, I mean, you're super consistent, so you probably can't test this as much as I do. I'm probably the most inconsistent out of us, right? Where I have phases where I'm hardcore, then I'm off, hardcore, off. And anytime I fall off for a week or two, that's when I notice all that stuff.
Well, that makes sense.
My low back starts bothering me. I get more bothered by like chronic pain when I'm not training. As long as I'm training, even if it's low volume, low frequency, once or twice a week, just good. But give myself 2 weeks off, And that's the first stuff I start noticing
Yeah.
is I'll be doing something. I'll be doing something and like my low back is just like fried.
Really?
Killing. Yeah. Over some stupid little stuff. And I'm like, man,
I have no-
such a good reminder, you know?
I have no. I wish I had a camera on me while I was sleeping. What the hell was I doing? Maybe I got up and just started doing
It was
karate.
like hip thrusts.
Hey, have you
Wait a
got,
minute.
hey, by the way, have you got rid of the cameras
what it
yet?
was.
I was giving
Which
Katrina a hard
ones?
time.
The
cameras of
oh,
the kids.
in my 4-year-old's room, we don't have it anymore.
Oh, you have got rid of it.
Yeah, we got rid of it. I mean, no, we have a camera.
I'm trying to break my wife.
No, let me back up. We do have a camera in there. We only put it on if we're not home. If we're not
I think
home,
you say if we're not in the room, I'm like that's pretty much all.
no.
Right?
If we're not home and someone else is putting him down, then we'll have it on.
Yeah, okay.
But otherwise, we close it. So we don't even have a monitor. We don't even have a monitor that listens for sound in his room. Now my 2-year-old we do because she's 2.
Yeah.
So she'll wake up and let us know.
Yeah,
That-
for sure. Breaking my wife is the hardest part of that.
I know.
Is getting her to let go of that.
You just wait till what is she gonna do when he's a teenager? She's gonna keep it on.
Well, I know. That's why I'm like. I mean,
That'll stop real
So
quick.
if you tell her that, she like scoffs. Like, of course not. But it's like, okay, well,
because he's 5.
Yeah, I know. Was it 7 then? Is it 9? Like, what age are you thinking? Like, when does it become not okay to do that?
Yeah, because he could just come out and tell you guys or yell from his room.
Yeah, he can do all the things. He can open doors, communicate. There's no reason. It's only her. It has nothing to do with him. There's nothing in there.
You know what? Put one in your bedroom for when you're not home or not around, and she'll be like, "Why do you have this in here?" I was like, "I just want to make sure you're." Oh, you don't like
Checking up on you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just don't. What I don't know is what kind of repercussions from doing that for too long could be, and I just would rather not.
Does he
test.
know? Well, he knows. He's 5. He knows there's a camera.
He'll talk to the camera.
That's the repercussion. Is that he always thinks mom and dad's watching him.
Yeah. So when he wants something, he can. Dad, could you send Daddy in here?
Get your ass down here. Tell me himself.
I'm like,
Replace it with one of
why
those
is
little
this kid
intercoms.
Can do that. Yeah. Request. Could you bring me my water, please?
Yeah, dude.
It's like, no, bro.
I'm hungry.
Hey, did I tell you guys what I got? One of the gifts I got for Christmas. Actually, one of the best gifts I ever got because it was thoughtful. So my wife hates buying presents for me. She's like, "It's your money. I don't like buying presents for you." I'm like, "Honey, it's our money." But she's like, "I don't know what you want. You get whatever you want." But anyway, she did a great job. She got me a mini fridge for the room so I could put my peptides and stuff in there.
Oh, that's a great
I'm so
gift.
happy about that.
That's a great gift.
That's a great gift.
Yeah.
So now I have like a little area.
That's a really good gift.
With where I got my peptides.
now
I got
you
one of
and all your
those. It
stuff
looks
into.
like a guitar amp. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Same thing.
No, that's a great gift. Did you guys see what I got,
dope.
Max? Did you see his?
No.
The Bowser? Oh, the Bowser jersey?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
I
did
didn't
see
see
that.
it.
That was all framed. It
Bro,
was so nice
Oh,
looking.
it's so cool.
I didn't even know they had a Bowser jersey.
I mean, shout out to Steve, right? Who gets my jerseys for me, so that he's so talented, so good. He does all this
Yeah,
stuff.
that looks sick.
He creates all this stuff and so good. And I
Was he
thought,
excited about it?
so that was the thing I was most worried about. Like,
Yeah, because
Katrina,
he can't play with it. Right?
yeah, he's 5, right? So it's just like, and it's not a small gift. It's like a big deal, right? That was his big Santa gift. And all I thought about was like, oh man, like this is gonna suck when, he's like, oh, cool, Dad, doesn't really care.
Or can I open it and put it on?
Yeah, and so no, I have a video actually. I'll share the video so people on YouTube can see. But he opened it and it was like I totally was like so happy that Katrina's like, "Do you like it?" And he's like, "I like it. I don't like it. I love it." And I was like, "Oh yeah, dude, he
That's
loves
so
it."
cute.
So yeah, he's into it. It was cool. That was his big gift from Santa. But of course, we got him like Santa also got him a train Lego set with it. I tell you what, I'm so impressed with that Lego is a privately owned company. So privately owned company, I believe it's worth 14 or 16 billion dollars.
Wow.
How many companies do you know that are
privately owned?
owned and in the tens of billions of dollars? Do you know any? I don't know any other.
Yeah.
Do you know
And
any
all
others?
the collabs with major brands they've done, and
So clutch.
still stayed, independent like that.
That Mario one they've done recently is probably one of the most. I mean,
I wish they had that when I was a kid. I would have gone crazy. with that.
They've bled me dry.
Yeah.
because
It's also great. It's great learning.
Well, that's
You do
why
it
it's
with your kid.
that's why it gets me because it's like it's so good for him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's quiet, he spends
Interactive.
hours doing it,
then you can do it
learning.
with him.
It's good for dexterity. I mean, it's good for so many things, and the fact that he loves it, it's like I'm such a sucker for. Oh, we built. What's the next one? You know what I'm saying? And so they just will you, and they will you, and they made him interactive now, right? You know how they all.
told me about that.
Yeah. So they all
Yeah,
have
you
like.
can like build your level, and he goes through the whole thing.
Yes, they have little QR things on it that scan it, and then they interact with different sound, and they all interact with all the other pieces. So like once you buy the main one that has the speaker or whatever, the little Mario or Luigi or whatever main character is, and you build him, it interacts with every other one that you buy in the future.
That's great.
So, I mean, it's just a smart way to keep the kids like wanting more of them. Like,
we got Aurelius. So, you know, you get these flashes of like, oh, that's definitely my kid. You know what he wanted for Christmas? And he got what he wanted, but he wanted an amp farm. He wanted a telescope.
Bro.
And a rock polisher.
Hell yeah.
Oh, you got the rock polisher?
We did.
Have you started it yet?
Yeah, dude. It takes
Yeah, I know.
a month.
I know.
Okay. No, I'm not exaggerating.
It is.
It takes a month.
Yes.
You put the rocks in.
It's like three-week phases.
Yeah,
processes
dude. But
of
he's
polishing.
all psyched about it.
Yeah, I
He
know.
was all psyched about it. And we have it in the garage running, and he goes out there. His amp farm, he'll just watch it. He'll just sit there and watch it. And like, oh, Papa, they're building something over here.
yes.
I think these guys are fighting.
Endless
over that.
entertainment.
And then the telescope.
You put
we're gonna-
spiders in there
Oh, what? Why?
because you watch them tear it apart. The
Shut
ants.
up.
Yeah, they all gang up on him.
Swear.
Yes.
So I could put a spider in there?
Absolutely, dude.
Oh my God, he'll lose his mind.
He will.
He will lose
We
his
did that
mind.
all day long.
Oh, I'm doing that
Yeah.
for sure.
I
I was
it was the
worried.
best. We were always introducing other variables in there. How are they going to react? Put a little yellow jacket in there. Hell yeah, dude.
Oh, that's
It's
gonna be
like
great. I
gladiator
love it.
games.
And my dog-
Yep.
That's great.
Did I tell you? Oh, I didn't tell you guys what my 15-year-old said.
No.
So she said, "Hey," she says, "Papa, you know what everybody at my school is wearing?" I said, "What?" Viore.
Oh,
high school.
wow.
Viore.
High school level?
All the, she's like, they're
They've made it, man. They're official. now.
Viore is now like that's what the kids want, not the other. Not
I wonder what if you got any new articles.
whole
I haven't
new
seen anything
demographic.
lately, but I'd love to see the comparison of Lulu, how much they've caught up and or.
Well, Lulu's still huge. Still,
I mean, they're massive
Still,
and a huge head
yeah.
start,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I mean, I tell you what, Viore has been taking a big chunk of that market share
I think so.
for a while now.
I know.
So
I
it's
know.
it's
But to hear that from my daughter,
Yeah.
you know, she's 15, so this is high school.
and a girl because
Crazy.
they really went after the male market first.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like they did the flip of Lulu, which was such a brilliant strategy, right? Like Lululemon did the whole go for women yoga pants
Yep.
first, and then they have like a small men's line. Viore saw, oh, here's a great, I'll go for the men, and then we'll flip it and do the girls.
Yeah.
What, you got any stats on them?
Well, the valuation for Lulu is 46 billion.
Yeah, see,
Wow.
Viore is 46.
which is okay. So they're 10 times bigger, but Viore just
Yeah.
It's just
10
getting
years ago
going.
was nothing.
I know.
Right.
They're-
While
They're on
while
a
Lulu
rocket
was
ship.
huge 10
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
Viore's quality is I think light years ahead of Lulu. I have stuff from Viore that we got.
Yeah, these
back
pants are like 5 years old.
and they don't pill. You know, like the other stuff will pill or whatever.
Yeah.
No pilling. Looks like it's brand new. 5 years later, and I wear it every single day. Their stuff is just next
Yeah,
level.
no. I think what's happened is I think Lululemon came out the gates early. And,
They were the first.
and they were known for. I mean, come on, they were the first like $100 yoga pants. Like they didn't
Yeah.
even exist before them.
Yeah.
So they introduced that athleisure wear market of clothes that you could wear to the gym and then also wear out. And so that they started that market. So of course they have a good grip of it. But then I feel like their stuff is leveled or even dipped as far as the quality and with the innovation.
Popularity, maybe,
And
yeah.
I think Viore has just been taking
totally.
a piece out of that every year. So it's cool to see that happen.
All right, I want to give. So 1998 was Lulu. So that company's been around for a long
yeah,
time. When
long
was
time.
Viore founded? Do we know?
2000 and
Much
Yeah.
later.
way later.
Yeah, so
they
they had
were
a-
really early when we got a hold of them.
Yeah.
So I mean, 10 years, 12 years.
Yeah. What is? Let's see. Viore was 2015.
Hey,
Wow.
nailed it.
Yeah. 10
They
years.
went to 4 billion in 10 years.
Yeah.
In less than 10
That's
years.
unreal,
Yeah.
dude.
5.5 billion.
5.5 billion. Okay, so that's crazy.
Yes. I mean, it's only a matter of time, dude.
That's a skyrocket.
Yeah, at this point, it's just a matter of time before they take a bigger chunk out of them out of that market.
Wow. I wanted to give a shout out to an Instagram page. It's actually a supplement company. We don't work with them.
You're gonna shout that page
I
out?
am, dude.
Oh my god.
We were enjoying their videos.
Bro, their
almost
ads-
Isn't
today.
that dangerous for you to shout some company out there and know very little about them yet?
It's the ads.
I'm going to
It's
caution our listeners until we know more information.
well, they're,
That's an early shout out, guy.
it is. But hey,
Hopefully they send us some products. to
I don't know.
test.
Listen,
Yeah.
I've seen now 15 videos on their
Yeah, it's
Instagram.
an
They
early shout out.
kill me. They absolutely kill me. They're hilarious. It's what was it? Stiff lip. Is that what the name
Stiff
of it?
Lip.
Let me look it up.
Supplements.
I think it's Stiff Lip pre-workout or something like that. But their ads are just Stiff Lip Sups.
Stiff lips.
Their ads are. It's a little. The humor's like whatever. You'll see, it's my kind of humor.
military guys.
Yeah,
I'm
hilarious.
curious to see how the how they taste. So we'll see when they.
Oh, they're pre-workout.
Yeah, because
product?
to me it has to taste decent for that to be.
I just like the ads. I just think they're brilliant, hilarious ads. They're so funny.
They're really funny.
Yeah. mphormones.com. Get your hormone levels checked. Get on testosterone replacement therapy or hormone therapy, and work with peptides like the popular GLP-1 peptides and more. This is with real doctors. It's not gray market. It's coming from real pharmacies. By the way, right now they have 25% off tesofensin and semaglutide. Semaglutide being one of the most popular GLP-1s. They also have a GLP-1 probiotic. This is a bacteria strain that raises the natural GLP-1 hormone in your body, and it's real, legit. Go check them out. Go to mphormones.com. All right, here comes the rest of the show.
First question is from Kathy Steinhilb. What is the best exercise to really target my rear delts without the upper back taking over?
Oh, so first let's talk about the value of developing the rear delts from an aesthetic perspective. So the rear delts are important for stabilizing the shoulder. It's the back of your shoulder.
Yeah. A lot of functional reasons too.
Yeah, it's functional. It protects the shoulder joint from, throwing or swinging. And you want that balance. You want that strength. But from an aesthetic point of view, a well-developed rear delt will do more to give your shoulders that round look than any other part of the shoulder. Really, it's true. Everybody thinks it's the side delt. The side delt's important. So is the front delt. But it's the rear delt that gives you that real nice shoulder look, especially from the side.
A full line that goes across.
That's right. Now, the best exercise that I've found is the one that's most commonly done. The problem is not everybody, a lot of people do it wrong.
They perform it wrong.
A rear fly. Now, if you don't want to involve the back muscles, because it could easily turn into almost a row, you keep the elbows out. You roll your shoulders forward. Do not retract the scapula. It's a very short movement. This is a rear delt isolating fly. If I start to bring the scapula back, now I come back further and I involve
It feels
the upper
weird
back.
because it's such a short range of motion, but yeah, you really have to keep it to that.
So I have a lot of thoughts and opinions about this because it was a major focus for mine for a long time. And I find that the best exercise would be like a rear delt fly. The problem with it done free weight wise, which free weights typically are phenomenal, is it's such a short range of motion where the rear delts really kick in that it doesn't give people a lot of time to focus on that. And since it's such a very meticulous
because the weight
movement,
is really only heavy at the top.
that's right. So I find cables are far better for this, especially when it comes to the teaching. Once you've learned how to activate the rear delts really well, then heavy dumbbell rear flies are incredible to do, and I love doing them. But teaching somebody, I love to go really light on cables, and I've done a YouTube video on this. Because my favorite movement is the cable kind of pull throughs, where you do a rear delt single fly, one side at a time,
one arm.
yeah, one at a time, real lightweight, and I'm taking it in the stretch position, so I feel the rear delt stretch, and the whole time I'm thinking about it, and then I get a squeeze at the end, and I'm flying out, not back, and with a lightweight, full range like that, constant tension on it. It seems to be one of the best movements that I can teach clients on how to activate the rear delt really well. Then I could take them to other movements that I think are phenomenal for rear delts. Then you do things like upright rows, and you can do things like rear delt dumbbell flies,
cable.
I mean, you do all kinds of stuff for them that are great.
Pull aparts.
But the key is really learning how to do that, and it's so easy for the bigger muscles.
Go light is the key here, because you add too much weight, you'll do the movement, but then it becomes a back exercise.
Yeah.
That's what ends up happening every time. So go real light. Like, I mean, I could go as heavy as 45, 50-pound dumbbells for rear flies, but if I really want to feel my rear delts and I really want to isolate them, it's like 20 pounds. That's
I've done several videos on our Mind Pump TV YouTube channel about rear delt stuff and the cues and the exercises that I like in there. So if you haven't looked at that, go to the Mind Pump TV channel.
Next question is from Kat M. Sherman. What do I do if reverse dieting never works and I just continuously gain fat above 1,800 calories?
Okay, so the most common reason why this will happen to you is it has almost everything to do with your workouts. Okay, so if you are training properly and appropriately and you're getting stronger and building muscle, then the reverse diet will work because it's going to muscle and the metabolism is speeding up. If you're overtraining or just doing tons of cardio or not strength training and you're just bumping your calories, you're going to gain body fat. You're going to gain body fat because it's not going to muscle. It's not going to the faster metabolism. That's the most common reason why this happens. And I would say it's probably 85 or 90% of people who experience this. That's why.
I would agree with that. And I'd say the other 15% are eating in a surplus. Let's say that they are actually following a good program, they're following a MAPS program, and they're still complaining of this. Then normally what the problem is they're eating in a surplus, but they're not hitting their protein intake.
Yeah.
So I'll have clients that are like, okay, we're reverse dieting. Okay, I've got this great program. But I still have such a hard time hitting my protein intake. And it's like, you're sending a great signal because you got a great program to build muscle. You're reverse dieting like you're supposed to, but then you're not hitting your protein. And the protein is the building blocks for building the muscle. And if you don't do that and you just eat in a caloric surplus, there's a very good chance that those additional calories just get partitioned over to building fat. So that is the problem. Normally, it's one or the other, or a combination of the two that cause people to not see the results.
There is a small percentage of people that have hormone issues where that can also contribute to this.
That would be the next one, I would say.
Yeah. So it's like low testosterone, or your progesterone, estrogen are off, your thyroid is low. That can also play a role in your inability to speed up your metabolism through a reverse diet. But vast majority of times, you're just not properly strength training. Yeah. If you're reverse dieting and not getting stronger, it's your strength training. If you're reverse dieting and just doing tons of cardio, it's not going to work. If you're overtrained, not going to work. Has to be appropriate. And if you build muscle, then it will work. The January special is here. We have 4 workout program bundles: the new to weightlifting bundle, the body transformation bundle, the New Year extreme intensity bundle, and the Body Transformation Bundle 2.0. Every single one of those workout program bundles is $300 off retail. It's a massive sale. If you're interested, go to mapsjanuary.com. All right, back to the show.
Next question is from EFN Coaching. If you had to pick a way to build a hybrid trainer business from the ground up with multiple revenue streams, how would you do it?
Yeah, first off, look, this is how I would do it today. So if and I'm going to rep us, and yes, I know I'm a little biased, but it's also objectively true. If I became a trainer today, the resources that you have available to you are pretty amazing. We didn't have these resources when we started as trainers. We didn't have almost any resources. But today, if I were to start out as a trainer, first thing I would do is get our course. The course that we have developed answers all these questions in depth. You get to hear 3 guys that did this for 2 decades and were successful at it before we ever started a podcast. And we break this down on what to do, whether you start in a big box gym or private studio or online or whatever, where to start first, what's going to work, how long it should take, what the process looks like. I mean, we break it down for you. So that would be the first place I would start. Yeah. Now, to be more specific, the best place to start, in my opinion, in my strong opinion, as a trainer, would be in a big box gym. You work for the big box gym. You learn from their systems. You get their leads, because that takes a while to learn how to do. And you get experience working in a busy big box gym, and start there and master that before you ever consider doing anything else. I think if you start out thinking you do 5 different things at one time and you haven't done any of them, it's your first time, and you're like, I'm going to do 4 different things. I'm going to master social media, online training, training people in person. You're probably going to fail at all of them. Start in the big box gym, kick ass there, then look at the next step.
I mean, there's still the paralysis by analysis. Like a lot of times I think that we try to give really good advice, but you have to just get going, and you have to iterate, and then you have to obviously go for the resources that are going to help you succeed. And I do look like at our courses is the closest thing you're going to find to a virtual mentorship. And that's something that I found a lot of value in, is really like shadowing other really qualified trainers and learning and really observing them and watching how they interact with their clients and picking up a lot of their business habits. And it's just so invaluable to peer into that and learn from somebody else. But really, I mean, for me, like what I've seen the most is like just you got to put it in, and you got to get going, and you got to sort of iterate as you go.
I mean, this is all the stuff that we address in our course, but let's say this person doesn't get that, and the things that I would tell this person. I would start in-person training, and I would also start social media, so Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, whatever. And all the posts that I would do would be related to my client that I'm helping out. So the idea is I'm getting practice by training people in person. I'm building content that's going to support and add value to my 1 or 5 clients that I have, which also serves as I'm hopefully going to attract other people that are like the people I'm already helping. So I've already proven that I can help those type of people. And so I'll slowly try that. It also works as a litmus test of how you would build an online business, because if you're putting out content and nobody is paying attention to you for free, you're certainly not going to be able to sell people online any sort of training program or anything you have to offer until you first prove that. Then I would go through Mind Pump's top 100 YouTube videos that have already gone viral and have seen, 100,000 or millions of views. And then I would watch them, and then I would use that as a way to steer my content, and I just put in my own words. I would listen to what those 3 knuckleheads had to say that made it go viral, and thought, oh, that's really good information. My values align with them as a coach and as a trainer. Let me learn to put it in my own words and say that. One, that helps me learn because I listened, I watched it, I then regurgitate it, which means it's just going to hopefully concrete into my own mind and become my own ideas and gives me good practice. And then I'm using them as a litmus test because they've already gone out and created tens of thousands of pieces of content, and there's ones that have done great and ones that haven't done so great. The ones that have done great tells me that more people want to hear that information. And so I would build my online content around ours. I mean, I tell trainers this all the time. I think it's crazy that you try and reinvent the wheel or do something different when you have guys like us that have already kind of paved the way. And we encourage trainers to use our programs, to use our content. I mean, our goal was always to elevate the space. And so we're not trying to hoard our information or say, oh, don't copy us, don't use our stuff. If you're a coach and a trainer, we're trying to make better coaches and trainers. That's the way we're going to impact the fitness industry more than any other way.
And we do free webinars all the time for trainers and coaches.
That's right.
Trainerwebinar.com. We do them every other month. So we get on there and we teach you specific things. So
Next question is from Jenny K. Mom. What are your thoughts on weight vests for walking?
I don't like them at all unless you're training to ruck. Unless you're doing something, you're going to train for an event that requires you to wear a weighted vest or a backpack or something like that, in which case then it makes sense. But here's why I don't like weighted vests for walking in general. Changes your biomechanics, increases your risk of injury, and it does very little to improve the benefits or health effects of walking. If anything, if you were to look at walking versus walking with a weight vest and looking at the health effects, and you factor in risk of injury problems, the weighted vest actually decreases the value of walking. Now, the average person thinks wearing a weight vest is going to give me so much better results. It's heavier. It's harder.
Have load.
This is going to make it. No, it's not. Yes, it'll make you better at walking with weight on you, which is if that's what you want, great. But if you're walking for leisure, for enjoyment, or just for general health, avoid the weight vest.
So I'm assuming this is coming from probably somebody who listens to us and listens to our friend Chalene Johnson. Shalene's done a lot of content in the last, couple months or maybe even a little bit longer since she's been wearing a weight vest every time that she walks. And I think that this stems from a study that she read
about weight bearing,
yes,
on bone density,
and about reversing osteoporosis.
Yeah, weighted walking to reverse osteoporosis pales in comparison to just strength training.
Weight training.
Yeah. It's literally
much more effective.
It's sending a weakened substitute signal for strength training. Okay, so strength training will do far more for bone density than weighted vest walking.
I'm not a fan of any weighted cardio, really.
No, weighted vest walking is going to be better for bone density than non-weighted vest walking if that's all you do. But if you want to, but again, if you factor in, because Shalene's fit, she's fit and healthy. You take the average person who doesn't walk more than 4,000 steps a day, and they're like, I'm going to start doing 30 minutes walks, and they throw a weight vest on, they're going to notice ankle pain, knee pain,
changes your recruitment patterns, and then,
changes all of it.
Yeah, so it's again, it's one of those things. It seems like it logically makes sense based off of if I'm adding and increasing progressive load to whatever I'm doing, my muscles should be affected, but it's really not going to have the same kind of impact as just being disciplined in the training and building up your muscles through weight training that we've already proven these specific types of exercises are much more effective at building that's, cardio is a totally different animal, and now adding weight to that, it's not as beneficial as you think.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate because I think I've already said my opinion on weight vests for a very long time on this show and how I feel, and we're all in agreement on it. After hearing Shalene's justification of how she does it, I would say that I understand the low barrier to entry person, somebody who's never done any sort of weight training but walks all the time, and adding the vest to their walk may help reverse osteoporosis that they're already heading that direction.
So they're already consistent. They're walking.
You're already walking and stuff like that, and you're doing
10
that,
pounds.
and you add now 10 pounds, and you don't do strength training. It's better than that. It's better than not, right?
Yeah.
So I can get that, and I also get the advice of this is just the first easy step that somebody can make. But to Sal's point, if I can get a client to squat just one time every 2 weeks,
It'll be more than that.
it'll be more effective than that.
Carry so much further.
So it'll be more effective than that person who walks every single day for
With
a
a
half
weight
hour to
vest.
hour with a weighted vest. If I can get them to squat one time every 2 weeks, that's how powerful that can be. And so if I had to choose as a trainer, I would always go that direction for sure, because I think I can convince my client to squat at least once a week. And so we're going to get more benefits. But if I have somebody who is deathly afraid of
They
doing
just
any sort of
refuse to do it.
yeah,
right?
refuse to do it. And it's like, well, at least do this.
Yeah.
At least you're walking every day anyways. Just throw on a vest because that'll help slow down this osteoporosis that's happening for you. Then I could see myself as a trainer going like, that's better than nothing.
Yeah.
But I think that there's better ways to skin this cat
I think
if that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, even in between that, I think I would prefer them to do more incline for resistance if that's what they're seeking, a little more challenge.
You know what's interesting too about the data? So what gets communicated, and this is where it gets mixed up, right? People are like, oh, weight bearing or impact is good for bone. Well, look at the studies on long distance runners and their bone strength. It's not that much better than someone who's sedentary. It is not a pro building form of exercise. And most of the bone density gains that they see are in the lower extremities. They see none in their upper extremities. A weighted vest will add some to the spine and some to the lower extremities over nothing, or over just
You'll
walking.
quickly adapt though.
But it's
too.
that's it though. You're stopped.
You stop.
A little bit of strength training. So okay, fine. You're going to walk 6 days a week for 30 minutes or for an hour. What if you just did 30 minutes once a week of 3 exercises?
That's what I mean. The reason why this
and
information,
it would surpass it.
This is why this information is not complete, because again, I think I can convince anybody who's ever sat
That's right.
at the desk across from me and that's trying to get in shape, that is trying to also reverse osteoporosis. And they go, hey, Adam, I heard that I could wear a weighted vest. I already do these walks every day for an hour. I heard if I put this 10-pound vest on, that could help me. And they quote the study. So, okay, that's great. Then I would come back and say, or what we could do is I could teach you how to squat, and we just do that once a week. And over time, as we get a little bit stronger, and we'll start with body weight, and then I'm going to add a 45-pound bar, and then I'm going to add 10 pounds. And I do that over time with you. That is going to do so much more for reversing osteoporosis than you walking every single day with your weighted vest.
I had a client.
It pales in comparison. Yeah. And unfortunately, somebody hasn't done a study to show the difference of those two head to head. But if it's I can't get them to do that and they're already walking, it's like, okay, well then at least do that.
Here's
Okay.
an easy way to understand this. What builds muscle builds bone.
Mm-hmm.
So let's rephrase the question. How much muscle am I going to build by walking with a weighted vest versus lifting weights?
Yeah.
The difference is profound.
Yeah.
That same difference.
Substantial.
That same difference. So
It's so profound, Sal, that's why I use the example of once every 2 weeks.
That's right.
You don't even need to do that much to pass all that walking with the weighted vest.
That's right. So my point with that is if you're walking now and you add 10 pounds, you'll build a little bit of extra strength and muscle. But nobody's going to say that's a great way to build muscle. What builds muscle builds bone. Strength training builds muscle. That's why it builds bone so damn effective. I had a client, I've brought her up before, Linda. She worked with me for years. She had they couldn't determine, it was an undetermined autoimmune, they think, issue where her bones were just getting weaker and weaker and weaker. They put her on Fosamax, I think was the name of the medication, to try and stop the loss. She was a professor. One of her students happened to be a trainer that worked for me years ago, said, oh, you should go work with my friend Sal. Anyway, she hired me and we did strength training 1 to 2 days a week. And she got bone density tests relatively regularly because of how quickly her bones were weakening. Okay, and she was a tiny woman, petite, and she was active. She walked, she did weighted walking, she hiked, she did everything. She ate a healthy diet. This is why it was a big mystery. They couldn't figure out what was going on. We strength trained, and I mean very appropriate strength training for a woman who was at the time, she was, I want to say, over 60. You know, never strength trained before, so it was like body weight squats, and little by little we would progress her. I remember she went to one of her first bone density tests after training with me for, I think it was like 4 or 5 months, and her doctor did another one because he thought there was something wrong with this test. And he said, okay, this is crazy. What are you doing right now? She's like, I'm working out. And he's like, how much? Oh, I see my trainer Sal once a week. So he got in contact with me, and they actually turned her into a case study of strength training and its effects on bone density.
Yeah.
And it was once a week, nothing crazy, nothing hardcore. We maybe complete 3 exercises in the session.
This is why, I mean, again, anybody who's been listening to this show long enough has heard me gripe about, you know, taking a study and running with it, is because it's always in this like very controlled environment, and it doesn't tell the full story.
No.
And it's like
12 weeks.
And it's like, of course, it's done in a short period of time, and it's like, okay, well, let's take that out a year. Where's that same person? It's not fair. If it's like, okay, but if I could convince that person to squat once a week, how much do they compare to that person? It's like, dude, it's not even close. It's not even close. And I think, Sal, you're right. One of the best, easiest ways for somebody that's more concerned about bone health is the same things that will build your muscles are the same things that are going to build your bones.
That's right.
High protein diet, strength training. And if you're afraid to go all in on strength training and you want to ease your way in, then literally even just starting with body weight movements, okay, or like a MAP starter type of program that's really basic and foundational, fundamental, that will do so much more for bone than walking with
you
a
mentioned
vest.
protein. People like the bones don't require protein to build. They need calcium and this, that, and the other. First off, there's a little bit of protein that builds bone, but it's because muscle anchors on bone.
That's right.
So as muscles
those build, they have to adapt.
They have to. So when the muscles are stronger and anchoring and pulling on the tendons that pull on the bone and pulling on, and the ligaments have to strengthen, the bone also has to strengthen. So the strongest bones you'll ever see in bone density tests are weightlifters, power lifters, bodybuilders. If you look at their bone density tests, there is no other type of human that has more dense, strong bones than those people right there, because they lift weights. All right, I know you liked that episode. If you did, check this one out. 30% body fat. For men, this is way too high. This is actually a bit high for women as well. So in today's episode, we're talking about how you can go from 30 to 10. What is 10% body fat? This is when you have a visible six-pack. Can you go from 30 to 10%? Yes, it's possible, but not if you guess along the way. So we're going to talk about how you can do that in today's episode.
Now, there's a huge range, right, of like body types.
Yes.
Some people can run a little bit heavier or a little bit higher body.